Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Saturday morning's show. A lettings outlook for 2024, Jim, and what landlords could expect from the rental market this year ahead is what we're going to cover this morning.
Looking pretty bleak.
I think
I can't say anything more than that, because according to everybody else, it's doom and gloom. It's is it really? Is it really? Is the lettings outlook, is the rental market on its knees? Or is the investments, is it all going to pot? What could we do about it? What about things like capital gains? Is it going to get changed? Is Section 24 going to get repealed in the budget coming up in March? This is what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions, and we're going to break down quite a lot today. And I think on the back of 2023, and I think there's no denying landlords did face, it was pretty challenging throughout the last year. In particular, for many of those there was a lot of landlords who were highly leveraged and decided to simply just sell up. But we're going to look at, we've looked at it before, and throughout the year we spoke about it while it was happening. And now that we've turned the corner into 2024, let's look at, did they act too soon? Was there other options for them? Their departure has left a bit of a hole in the market, but it's obviously opened up opportunity for existing investors and newcomers. And there's a lot of fresh faces and a lot of fresh blood coming into the sector, and they've got that opportunity to fill that gap. And there is a bit of a chronic shortage of houses at the moment. We could see, honestly, unprecedented demand. We don't have the stock to meet it. So, there is such a massive demand in the Fife area, and it is pushing rents and things to new levels. So that's something we're going to talk about today as well.
According to the Scottish Government, there's no problem in the buy-to-let market at all. There's no problem in the buy-to-let rented sector. But according to the landlords and investors, it's like there's an exit. There's people exiting left, right, and centre, and it's like the last person left. Well, you just put the light on the way out of the private rented sector. As I said before, most landlords couldn't care if they were pushed out of the private rented sector. You'd probably be giving them a breather, because the fact is they would no longer need to deal with people in property, and they would just put their money in the bank and earn money that way, or they put their money into their pension and earn money that way as well. But I don't know what it is. It's maybe the excitement of possibly taking a risk. If it is taking a risk, if you work it out, it's not really a risk. But for most landlords, it is taking a risk. And I think that's what appeals to them, is the fact that it's their capital and they're taking a risk, but the risk investment reward is higher because you're taking a higher risk than just putting it in the bank or putting it in your pension and sticking it in the UK equities, which is made 4% every single year. So you get your amount on top of your pension, your tax relief added back, which is 20% minimum. Hello, 20% return minimum straight away. You need 5 years to get 4%, every single year to do that, to get the 20%. So you need to be in at least 5 years even to get that 20% on your pension when you put it in. And then you're getting 4% every year as well. So you're at least needing about 10 years to get back the same return. But for some, I don't know, dare I say masochistic reason, landlords want to take a sort of risk or a supposed gamble in the private rented sector to maybe make a higher return than they can, and it keeps them excited. The one thing today's society has got more than anything before, it's excitement.
Yeah.
Why do you not just practice being bored for a change? Because that's what works, and it works extremely well. Everybody wants excitement, and the confusion with excitement is they confuse it with happiness, and it's not.
Yeah,
that's another story. That's a breakthrough on Monday in the Wealth Creation Show at 12:30. Yeah, the confusion with happiness.
It is creating this kind of emotion of excitement, and maybe it's just to kind of try and fill the void of maybe a happiness or contentment thing, because they've not got that going on. But there is a lot of landlords.
Hold it. Just before we leave that, I'll take a calculated risk here. I'll make a good assumption here that most landlords risk their capital and investors risk their capital to invest in the private rented sector because they believe this time next year we'll be millionaires. But if you work it out what they've just done, they have no chance of becoming a millionaire out of what they've done or invest in the private renting sector, because it can't lead to that. They just don't want to. They've not seen it. It's like me when I first wanted to be an accountant. I went, yeah, I'm going to be an accountant, qualified accountant. I'm going to be a top leader in industry. And yeah, I was destined to do that. And I'm going to make millions. And then one day I thought to myself, wait a minute, I'm only on like 25 grand a year. Where is this going? Where is this going after this? It's like, how much does the managing director make? Oh, about 60 grand. Wait a minute. He's only making 60 grand. It's like, how am I going to be a millionaire if he's making 60 grand and he's working all the hours possible? That's not entirely possible. So I think for some people, it's about hope.
Yeah.
It's about the hope in the private rented sector and the hope that they're going to do something more than just put their money in the bank and have a pension or whatever it is, which is absolutely boring. But
yeah, more than just
as well.
Yeah, more than just.
I get excited about boring.
But yeah, like you say, it's more that they're taking that risk in the hope that that their investment's going to give them more than just to tide them over in their later years. Do you know, they want to have this, they want to be on this other level. So
definitely.
Yeah. So in terms of obviously this year and 2024 has started off positively, and it does look like it's set out to be less turbulent. Maybe there's some doom and gloom and some maybe headlines out there, but I think it's looking a lot more positive. There are some upcoming changes for landlords and things that they do need to consider, and we're going to cover a lot of them today. We're going to look at things like the return of the accidental landlord, improvements in the mortgage market. We spoke about that in the midweek show, Jim. We'll have a wee bit of clarity over this net zero and the requirements and things as well. Additional opportunities to expand and changes to capital gains as well.
Yeah, so definitely. Changes to capital gains is a biggie. You know, that's a fly one, but we saw that coming. You know, we did a show on this maybe about, oh geez, how long ago was that? Maybe 2019, 2020 about capital gains and how it's going to change dramatically. And you know, we told everybody at the time that, you know, the allowances will be taken away because the Office of Budget Responsibility said that they were going to be removed. So, you know, I think it's wherever you are right now in your landlord journey, even if you're thinking of selling or you're planning to expand or you're raring to buy your first rental investment, see the amount of people that come onto our Scottish property network and actually join and say, I want to learn more, I'm wanting to get into buy to let. And it's like, and I think, you know, what course have you been on lately? Because they're excited. They're excited. They've obviously spoken to someone. They've obviously got them excited about it. There's the excitement thing again, and they want to get involved. But you have to have the motivation to do it. And by motivation, what I mean is the motive for action. That's really what motivation is. The motive for action. If you don't have the motivation to do it, and I talk about internal motivation rather than external motivation, then this isn't going to be the greatest journey for you being a buy-to-let investor and being involved in the private rented sector. You're maybe going to feel some excitement now and again. You're going to get the buzz, and you're going to get the buzz even though you're losing. And some people will continue to lose just because they want that buzz. And some people will come to self-destruction, you know, and start tinkering. You notice how I don't tinker with any of my stuff now. It's like, I'll leave well alone. I have almost just under 1 hour a week with Laura, and I just go over the key fundamentals, and that is the end of it. I don't get involved in my portfolio anymore, except for if I'm looking at acquisitions. That's it. Boring pays well.
I know there's a very rare opportunity. I'll grab you and maybe pick your brain about things to do with the portfolio, but it's very hands off for you now.
Okay, let's talk about accidental landlords then.
Yes, I mean,
where are they coming from, Richard? Why is this? What's it going on about? You know, how is accidental landlords beginning to appear again? This is weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no secret that buying in 2023 took a little bit longer than it did in 2022. Obviously, 2022 market was a lot different, but that doesn't mean that people's lives have slowed down. And we need to think about, like, when you need to move, you need to move. So some sellers give up the search for buying and rented houses out. They rented out their own homes instead. and that's to keep their plans on track and things as well. So depending on how many sellers become accidental landlords this year, their presence could filter through to the rental market in various ways.
So just to explain, Richard, for people out there, what an accidental landlord is, just in clarity, because we assume we know it. We know what that is. An accidental landlord is someone who can't sell or can't sell their property within the time available to buy their next property. So what they technically do is they then just remortgage their property on a buy-to-let mortgage, and they release 75% of the value, and then they put that down, whatever value they're releasing, as a deposit for their next house, which they can move into, and they keep the existing house and rent it. So this is what happened in the credit crunch. Well, a lot of accidental landlords appeared, hence the reason why a lot of landlords are actually exiting now, because it's a boom time in the last couple of years. So that's why they're exiting now. So that's what an accidental landlord, or it could be the fact that it's a deceased estate and they don't know what to do. So I tell you what, we'll just rent it, or, we'll have it as an income for everybody else. Or it could be maybe your elderly parents have gone into care and therefore you're forced to rent, so they don't take the asset to pay for all the charges, because then you're allowed to do that in certain circumstances. But speak to a solicitor about that, because they know the legal circumstances surrounding you and what would constitute you either being able to rent that property, or you would have to sell that property for these certain conditions. Sorry, Richard, I thought I would just clarify that for
no, it's fine. And it's quite often we talk about things, and I do it a lot, and you have this expectation that people know what you're talking about when you use terminology like accidental landlord and things, because we do it day in, day out. But yeah, so just for clarity, that's what an accidental landlord does. And in this instance that we're referring to, with this slowing of the market, and it's having that wider choice available, a wider choice of homes available. So it gives tenants the luxury of being a bit fussy, rather than, having to go into bidding wars and having to really consider the first thing that comes along. They don't have to do that. And then at the same time, we could see more upmarket rentals entering the market, because homeowners usually spend more money than landlords on fixtures and fittings and design and things as well.
Yeah.
So that's obviously that's having an impact on the amount of accidental landlords that are there. And this could really create a new tier of high value, stylish homes appealing to maybe high earning tenants who are willing to and be able to pay more for that wee bit extra comfort.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, what we say about accidental landlords and what we say about it gives them more choice, it's still pretty limited just now, in certain areas. So it possibly will rise. There's a talk. I'll tell you right now. Well, let's talk about more mortgage options. Ask me the question about what's about to happen to mortgages tomorrow. Apparently, to a broker, it just announced it before it was meant to be announced on social media. They talked about the mortgage rates and where they're going, and the announcement is about to come from some of the banks, the Halifax as well. So it's going to be a surprise to most people tomorrow or Monday morning, what's happening with the banks and what they're doing with the mortgage rates. But it's I kind of probably saw it coming. If it's true, it could be utter gibberish. You never know. So I'm not going to talk about it too much right now, but definitely the accidental landlords, the rise, and you could see more upmarket rental homes in some of the areas like London where they can't get rid of them, because the people that are having the crisis the most are the people, the areas, or the areas where the price is so high, the affordability levels is not possible anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why they end up becoming an accidental landlord. They don't really want to be a landlord, but in order for them to move on, that's the best way to do it. And mortgage brokers out there will say, yeah, that's an easy way to do it. But as I say, we go back to the credit crunch, and it was a familiar story every single time. And I was surprised about the amount of people I used to go in to see, and they were going, but we're kind of stuck here because we'll not be able to sell our house for the right value. And I'm like, well, okay, but have you ever considered this option? And it was like, we take it on to rent. You then release 75% of the value because you've been in it for maybe about 10 or 15 years. So therefore, there's a huge amount of equity built up in. And then you use that 75% and take a small mortgage on your next property. And you've got an investment as well as your next home. That's the best of both worlds. That's a win-win. And yet hardly anybody people do that, do they? I mean, that would be a great scenario where a lot of people would actually do that. I mean, it wouldn't be great for the sales market, obviously, for us as estate agents, but it'd be great for the lettings market as well. So, you know, the sales market's loss is the lettings market's gain overall. But when you do that and become an accidental landlord, the things that you're going to fall foul from is the legislation.
Yeah, that's the thing, and people,
like, oh no, it's like the legislation.
And I think there's quite a shock to people that aren't involved in lettings or being a landlord, and accidentally they become a landlord or are pushed to be a landlord in situations, and then it comes apparent to them, oh God, I'm going to have to contend with all this, or do you know, it can be quite a shock to people.
It's when someone like us walk in the door and say, well, you'll need smoke detectors, you'll need heat detector, you'll need carbon monoxide detector, you need a Legionnaires test, you'll need a gas certificate, you need an electricity EICR certificate, you'll need your fire and furnishings, make sure that every single thing's compliant, it's all got labels on if you're doing furnished, you'll need all these part tested as well, and it's like, and then they go, oh my God, and it's like, and by the way, you can't leave it like this because you're expecting a tenant to pay money for this. So you're going to have to redecorate and refurbish this property. And they're like, oh, well, I'll probably just have to sell it.
Yeah.
That's what people don't realize about buy to let. It costs an absolute fortune to get started in the first place.
To get things off the
ground. It's like the farmer, I go back to saying it. It's like the farmer putting all that investment into all the seed that he buys or she buys to plant, and all that resource and labor to plant all that seed, nurture that seed, and look after that seed to grow, to produce a yield at the end. So all the costs come up front more than likely. This no money down scenario is a lot of rubbish. You know, this says, oh, no money down is a great idea, and you'll see the people on social media going, yeah, I got no money down, I got no money down, I got no money down, and then the next, but they don't tell you about the 10 or 20 failures they had in order just to get one result, and the amount of effort and time they put in to get it, and everybody else that's fallen by the wayside trying to do that strategy in the past. Because they don't want to tell you about that, because a property trainer can't sell you a course then.
Yeah.
That's ultimately it. And there's very few people that actually get no money down deals. But you still, this is going back to the gambling thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This is going back to people like a gamble. So this is why they like the idea of no money down, about the fact that, oh, I'm not using my money and I'm making money off somebody else's money. And if I borrow as much as possible. And Kiyosaki goes, get into debt. The more debt you have, the more money. I even had a banker. I'll say that properly. I even had a banker actually say to me, you know, your money's made with the amount of debt you accumulate. And that was just 2 days ago. And he's lived in £1 million house. But he's not allowed to accumulate any debt, and he's not allowed to have a limited company. The banks don't let him. They don't let you become a director of a limited company because they frown on it, because if you borrow in that company, you'll be personally liable. Therefore, it's a conflict with the bank.
Conflict of interest, yeah.
So let's talk about mortgage options then.
Yeah.
That brings us nicely onto that.
It does. And let's look at mortgage options. And I think what a year we've had with mortgages in 2023. With fewer mortgage deals, and there was 8 base rate rises in 2023. So, but that's since August. So things have improved on many fronts, Jim. But so let us know what they are.
Well, the Bank of England, for example, had held, you know, the rate steady at 5.25, bringing some welcome stability and the easing slightly of inflation. But as we know, it's gone from 3.9 to 4%.
Yep.
Money Facts report in January, actually, beginning with January began with almost 6,000 mortgage products available. I mean, that's the highest level in 15 years. And lenders have actually started cutting rates. But according to the information I just found out just now, on Monday, you're going to be told that lenders are putting rates up.
Okay.
Yeah. On mortgages. And I think this is because it's like, whoa, wait a minute, inflation. Inflation's gone up a bit. That wasn't meant to happen. I saw it coming.
Yeah, it jumped up slightly.
And then you've still got to factor in the pirates and the Red Sea thing. I mean, you know, That sounds so comical, the pirates in the Red Sea, but it's true. It's before the Suez Canal, before they go in. They're basically hijacking the oil tankers, and there's a lot of turmoil in there. Therefore, it could affect petrol prices. Therefore, petrol prices go up. Therefore, guess what? Inflation goes up with it. Guess what? Base rates go up as well, or base rates stay the same. So this should have a knock-on impact. The good news is, for employers, wage negotiations, by the way, are still at 6.6%. And they're higher than inflation. So there's another factor you've got to think about. It's not under control yet. Therefore, for businesses, though, the number of people available for jobs are 1.4 million now, and the jobs available are only about 900,000. So therefore, there's more people for jobs. Therefore, easing of wage inflation should come under control in the next 6 to 12 months, I would say. And then you've got got organizations that are looking to streamline and cut back. And let's be honest, it's called paying people off. Downsizing. Right. Okay. Just paying people off. That's it. Or they used to call it right sizing. We're going to go through a process of right sizing. It's like, what? Paying people off. Yeah. So there's no account about that. But then you look at the amount of transactional numbers as well in the property market, and in terms of, and they're down 15% in Scotland. That's going to hit small business because less people are buying houses. Therefore, less houses are getting refurbed. Therefore, less businesses are prospering as a result of that. So there's this sort of effect still to come through in the economy, in the Scottish economy, in the UK economy, and even in the Fife economy overall. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But it could nicely balance each other off, and the fact that base rates might not go above because less people are working. But I'm not saying huge layoffs or anything like that. I'm just saying it'll come back to a natural fit with the current state of market just now, and maybe people will just retrain for other industries because there is 900,000 jobs out there. There's 1.4 million people looking for them. So therefore, technically, in real terms, there's only about 500,000 people really unemployed. If that makes sense to people. And we're still sitting at 4.2% unemployment level, which is what it was the month before. So nothing fundamentally has changed except the availability of jobs in the market now has dropped as more employers have cut back on the number of jobs available. So this is what's going to affect mortgages. This is what's going to affect rates overall. This is what's going to affect the UK economy. And so what we're saying, that lenders have cut rates and buy-to-let mortgages. Just now, buy-to-let mortgages are starting at about 4.5%. On a 2 to 5 year fixed rate deals. I mean, I'm getting one just now. I think it's round about just under 5% for a 5 year fixed rate deal for one of my properties through Virgin Bank.
Yeah.
So I could vouch for that. It's all still there right now. But there's a bit of optimism. Cost optimistic. It feels like there's better times for landlords ahead and mortgages, and not just for deals coming up for renewal, but also for new loans being taken out. But this could all change. This is why, if you're going to do something, do it now. If you're selling, don't wait, do it now. If you're buying, don't wait, do it now. If you're buying for investment, don't wait, do it now. If you're a tenant looking to move in now, because this is where you're probably going to get the best rental rates you're ever going to get, because it's going to go up. It's going to continue to go up all the time as the restriction and the number of properties available to rent gets less and less and less. Literally, you've still got more people chasing one property, haven't you, Richard?
Yeah, like that's what people forget as well. And when people are on their search and they get frustrated with agents and things, they forget that we've got so much inquiries just for that one property. We can only give it to one person or one couple or candidate or whatever, and it can make it very difficult. And it's quite a challenge to get that message across to people that we are trying to obviously speak to everyone, give everyone an equal opportunity, but it's very difficult.
You ever watch Trading Places? When he sticks up his hand and goes sell, and everybody runs in and goes buy, buy, buy. Well, that's like a landlord putting his hand up and going, "I've got a property for rent," and everybody goes, "I'm in." And then the next minute, everybody's complaining. It's like, how are you getting back to me? It's like, well, if you could imagine that meme, whatever that is, in that scenario, that's effectively what it's like. As soon as you put a property on the market for rent, there's a frenzy. It's like a piranha frenzy.
Yeah, especially
like everybody's straight in there.
Yeah, especially, I mean, the ones and like the kind of mid-market property, like 2-3 bedroom houses and apartments or flats and things. That these are, I mean, they go like hotcakes. It's like they're so popular.
I wish we had more. I wish we had
I mean,
more property. If
do
anybody
I?
and see the accidental lackadaisical landlords out there just pottering away with their property and saying, "Well, I've just to fix this and I've just to fix that before I put it on the market." And then a year passes, they're still paying their utility bills, they're still paying their council tax,
Council
probably double
tax
now,
and shit.
and they're still losing that rent every single month. For an accidental landlord that's got the property empty, every single month goes by, you're losing 500 quid. If I was taking £500 out of your pocket every single day, every single month, I mean, 500 quid, by the way, I'm taking it off you, you'd be up and down, jumping. You'd be fuming. And yet, because you don't see it and you've not got it already, for buy-to-let landlords that have their properties empty, or accidental landlords that have the properties empty, they don't really think about the opportunity cost it's affecting them. The £500 a month they're losing, £6,000 a year. What could you do with another £6,000 a year? My God! For some people, effectively £6,000 a year. Let's just do that. £6,000 divided by is effectively 18% of the average salary. Could you imagine losing 18% of your salary? Why not give yourself a salary increase? Get your property up for let and get it filled, and that'll give you a salary increase. Never mind waiting for your boss to do it. Just get your property filled and make more money.
That's a really good way to put that and demonstrate to people, like, basically it's an 18% salary increase that you're sitting on. And people do, it's the whole procrastinate and just, like you say, dawdle about and do bits and pieces. And I'm like, we're ready to go. Let's get this on.
Time gets in the road for a lot of landlords. We've only got one property. It's not really our focus. We've got life to manage life as it happens round about us. You know, babies arriving, you know, people going, and all the different things, starting new jobs, moving homes, getting married, getting divorced, getting separated, all these different things, problem with, you know, sorting out, helping our children and, you know, all these different, and our parents, all these different things get in the road. That's why you've got a blooming letting agent.
It's just you took the words out of my mouth.
That's exactly why you have a letting agent. You're losing hundreds of pounds every single month by no renting your property. And it's like, oh, I'll do it myself. You're a skinflint. You didn't even think right. You're thinking broke.
Yeah, I do find myself saying to a lot of people, and it's they let a lot of things in life in general get in the way of what they're doing. And I'm like, but we'll do all that for you. That's what we do. And obviously, we're desperate to get stuff on because it alleviates the pressure on us, because we've got so many people coming to us for property, and it's like, this property would be brilliant. It would fill a gap. It would obviously please somebody to have it there, and take the stress off the amount of.
These are the same people, Richard, that often moan about being skint.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, you've got an asset there not doing anything, and just because you can't be bothered fixing something or getting a contractor to do it, which we could have done for you, you know, and to save a few £100, you're losing thousands. That's a broke mentality. You'll be skint for the rest of your life with that sort of mentality and that sort of thinking.
Some people, and like you say as well, they're quite reluctant to just hand it over completely. You know, people kind of like to keep things close, and it's like, just let somebody else deal with it. And I know what that feeling's like when you think, I'll do it myself. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, but I could save £10 a month.
Yeah. Let somebody else do it. Yeah, let somebody else do it and get it done.
I could save some money. I could save a few pounds. It's like, you'll save nothing. It'll cost you an absolute fortune to try and do this yourself. You have no idea what you're talking about as a buy-to-let landlord for the first time. You have no idea what you've got to contend with. Let a letting agent look after it for you and pay them. They're only getting paid if they get the money for you. If they get the rent for you, that's when they get paid. You don't pay them otherwise, really.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. And it's like, they ask about obviously our commission and what we take, and I'm like, we only get that if we're actually doing what we set out to do, and we collect the rent. Yeah, we're not collecting the rent, or we've got to them here. Yeah, but anyway, we digress. But it's all relevant.
Here's the one I want to talk about. The one I want to talk about the most is, well, we know what's happened with EPCs recently, but you know, it's definitely more clarity over the net zero situation. You know, what's been happening with that.
Yeah, like the net zero and the energy efficiency side of things. And we're aware there's a general election on the cards coming up in the next 12 months. And we're likely to see clearer messaging from the political parties about like the hot topics of rental property and energy efficiency. And
well, we've got clear things from the Patrick Harvey, the Greens, haven't we?
yeah,
As far as he's concerned, every single household in Scotland should have a ground source heat pump, which the guy that invented ground source heat pump says are not viable in Scotland.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the guy invented them says that, you know, there's no way ground source heat pumps will work in Scotland that efficiently. They're cost prohibitive. The guy that invented them. See, that's how stupid these people are.
This is the thing about things being implemented without really. I mean, what research or what background was put into that to think, right, okay, we'll try and roll this out and recommend this?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Zero. What everybody fails to realise about your politicians, they have no knowledge about what they're specialist in, apparently. If they're a minister for something, think about it. They've only just become the minister for housing, the minister for social justice, the minister for something else. The real person running that place is the civil servants behind that person. That's the person that's doing policy. If you put Patrick Harvey on the stand and actually ask him about all the legislation and about what smoke detectors are and what the implications and what's the long-term effect of the private renting sector and where do you see rents going and why is that and all the background and the knowledge and the information and the expertise and where's all that advice coming from, he will not have a Scooby-Doo about it.
Yeah.
He will not have a clue about what he's talking about. And most politicians will be exactly the same. I mean, how could you learn about your department if you've only just been put in as the minister and then, you know, a year later there becomes a shuffle comes along and then you're moved to foreign affairs? It's like, what do you know about foreign affairs? Nothing. Yeah. It's you just have to be a mouthpiece for the department. It runs foreign affairs. The real person in charge is not the minister. It's the person there. It's like the typical example of the Queen, you know, to ratify legislation on behalf of Parliament. It's like the Queen can't say no. She's like, it's getting presented in front of the Queen. And well, the king or the queen or whatever it is, the monarch. Well, we'll just talk about the monarch. It's like the monarch. The monarch can't say no. The monarch has to sign it off because Parliament has decreed it. It's going into law. So they have no choice. They can't say, oh, well, I'm not signing that off. It's like, okay, well, that's you out then. We're a republic now. So they've got no choice. And it's just the same as ministers. Ministers have no idea what they're talking about half the time. They play a good game. That's the reason that they go about round the houses when they're supposed to give an accurate answer. When they're asked a question, when somebody puts them on the spot, you watch the next time a minister actually is asked a proper question about statistics and information, and the waffle that comes out of that person's mouth to avoid the real answer because they don't know the answer. They don't have any knowledge or expertise around what they're talking about, even though they're in charge of that department. Yeah, unless it's become a passion. For example, you put me in charge of the Minister for Housing for the Scottish Parliament, I would have full clarity about what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But you should really have a specialist in that field standing up front and representing that sector.
How could you? We're just voting random people into power are prepared to talk a good game and say they're going to do the job. Yeah. I mean, what expertise do they have in these fields once they appoint them in there? They don't have any expertise at all. So this net clarity, the clarity over net zero, the essence of the net zero targets aim to ensure that all rental homes are warm, low carbon, affordable for heat. So expect measures for insulation and emissions. So that's there's no doubt about that. But listen, we're up for that as well. But it has to have a proper investment return. If I put £1,000 or £5,000 into there, you know, you're wanting a decent return on that £5,000 you're putting into it, you know, because you're getting the return already. You've got, so why would you need to put another £5,000 into it and just throw money into a fire for the benefit of the tenant? Okay, great, but what about the benefit of the person investing? I'd be better just put my £5,000 in the stock market.
I know.
I'd be better put it in crypto.
No, don't do that.
Aye, but it's just the same. You're not making a return anyway. So, you know, you're taking a total gamble in the fact that you're putting in, but it's not adding a significant value onto it. All it's doing is bringing the EPC up and making it more affordable for the tenant to live in it. Yeah. But sometimes it's cost prohibitive.
these measures for insulation and emissions and things, obviously that means most homes are going to need to use low carbon heating, like you said, Jim, which means phasing out gas boilers. But then
That's madness.
But then the timeline for that's been pushed back to beyond 2030.
And the timeline beyond 2030 will be pushed back again. That is
they
utter
can't be
madness to have a whole system with what we have as condenser boilers, which burns 96% efficiency. So every pound you put into it now, you're getting 96 pence back in heat dispersion throughout the house. All you need to do is insulate properly.
Yeah.
This is the thing about the fact that they're going on about, it's not anything to do with that. It's the fact that they don't want to use gas and what they call fossil fuels. Well, they're not fossil fuels because gas wasn't as a result of fossils. If you read up on it and you look at the scientific facts, it didn't happen as a result of that. Same with oil as well. It's quite intriguing how we've got this thought process about what oil. This is the old classic example, as I told you about what's 2 and 2. Well, it's 4. Yeah. No, you're wrong. What's 2 and 2? It's 4. You're wrong. What's 2 and 2? 4. You're wrong. It's 5. What's 2 and 2? 4. You're wrong. It's 5. What's 2 and 2? 5? Yeah, you're right. Hey, I'm right. I'm right. People like to be right. And then I go to the next bit. What's 2 and 2? 5. Yeah, I'm right as well. And now all of a sudden 2 and 2 equals 5.
Everybody thinks 2 and 2 equals 5.
Yeah. So this thing about net zero and the challenge for net zero, I would say to everybody right now, and this isn't a promotion for veganism or plant-based or anything like that at all. But if the Green Party truly wanted to be a Green Party, they should all be plant-based.
Yeah.
Because
the
amount of humans, the 8 billion humans on the planet, there's 16 billion animals to feed the 8 billion humans. Yeah. And who's feeding all the 16 billion and all the resources to feed the 16 billion animals to feed the 16 billion, the 8 billion humans? It's costing an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
It's basically using all the resources.
There's a big emphasis on, like you say, using fossil fuels and gas and our emissions and things like that. But then it's kind of overlooked the fact that the food sector and, like you say, the animals that used to feed people, the amount of effect that has on the environment. If you've watched programs and
the crops are all grown
soya,
in the Amazon rainforest, it's been obliterated to grow soya. For 80% of the soya goes to the animals to feed them. In the third world, it's starving, and all their soya is going to feed the animals.
It's crazy.
This makes no sense. This paradigm. This makes no sense in today's world. Rank of the Rank organization, Lord Rank. And Rank Hovis, if anybody knows what that is, he determined in the 1960s. This is where koron came from. You know, the vegetarian, the mushroom, the fungi, koron. Yeah. That's what it's made from. He actually, koron. Yeah, he foresaw that. He saw this coming. He saw a time where the population would be so mass we wouldn't be able to sustain the food chain for that reason. So he saw a solution as to grow fungi, which is what they do now, and they grow, lab generated meat and all the rest of it, and soya. Because soya is easily sustainable. You plant it, you grow it, you reap it and you harvest it, and then you plant it and you grow it again. It doesn't actually. Soya doesn't really consume everything. Really, it doesn't consume huge. It just consumes the rain coming down. That's it. That's how it lives. Whereas it's a completely different proposition if you're using an animal. But we can debate with that forever. But if you really want to get back to net zero, that's the sort of thing we're needing to move to. And that would sort out. Look what happened in lockdown. Look what happened when everybody went into the house. Everybody sat in their houses, and all of a sudden the skies went blue.
Skies went blue outside, totally flourished,
and there was no cloud, and it was beautiful weather. And all the animals came out and ran about the golf courses and ran about the towns and stuff like that. And it's like, who really is here? Who is the actual? Who's the locus?
It should really have been taken as an opportunity and an eye opener. That period of lockdown, because I mean, it was for me. I thought
nobody wants to know that. Everybody just wants to sell you something to make money. We're back into the capitalistic system again. That's that's another story. Nonetheless, make sure it makes sense. Sorry, Richard, on you go.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, we're talking about the phasing out of gas boilers and things, which I personally think is a very, very big undertaking to challenge. But I think it doesn't mean that, and Jim, we've done this a lot recently, that when you're at that stage in between tenancies or revamping your new property and things, to look at the energy efficiency. and make the additions to your portfolio and your properties to make sure that you have a better efficiency rate. I mean, that's not to say that you've not to just discount that. Please use that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. If you've got the opportunity, I mean, you know, the net zero thing will come along eventually, and that's fine. And I always say to people, look, learn your. What did I say when it was announced all these years ago in 2020 or 2019? Don't do anything until it actually gets put into legislation, because I'll guarantee you we'll get nearer the deadline and they'll just push it further back. So a lot of people actually ran out and says, what are you doing for net zero and how you energy efficiency? They were changing all their boilers, they were upgrading all their systems, and it's like, and then they announce, as we said, it's like they pushed it back to 2030, and I think the can will just get kicked down the road all the time. But it is a warning. When you get the opportunity to refurb, you may as well take the opportunity as well at the same time when you're refurbing to actually look at the energy efficiency, because it's a win-win at that point, and it isn't throwing money into the fire anymore. It's actually a proper investment done correctly for the right reasons, because you're doing it at the same time as doing your normal change of kitchen, you know, change of heating system, maybe change of boiler, stuff like that. The one thing that excites me the most is H100, which is the 300 households in Buckhaven are actually going through the hydrogen testing. So they're going to run on hydrogen produced by the turbine, one of the biggest turbine in Europe, in order to run things like their boilers, their cooking facilities, and if they've got a gas fire, they'll do the gas fire, and their oven as well, from hydrogen, and see what the impact of that is. And that's a worldwide groundbreaking project. No one's done this yet, and they're doing it. They're doing it in Buckhaven.
Buckhaven, yeah.
But why not? Why not? Buckhaven could go down in history as the place that actually pioneered the testing for H100, which is hydrogen use in homes forever.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, eh?
That's brilliant, yeah.
And yet people run it down, don't they?
Yeah.
I was like, can I just buy a house in Buckhaven so I could sign up to it? When they first talked about it, and I did the interview with them at the time, with Scottish Gas Networks. When I did the interview at the time, and I thought, brilliant, this is fantastic. Where could I sign? And he went, well, it's only 300 households within a certain particular area of Buckhaven. And then they started saying that we'll have to give people £1,000 sign-on fee as well. And it's like, really, to get free appliances and free gas for the next 5 years and heating and all the rest of it. It's like, and you're
going to have to give them £1,000.
You have to bribe somebody to sign up to that. See what I mean about broke thinking? You know, it's like you'll never get out of your poverty trap if you still continue to think in that way. As a man thinketh, so he become. That's what it comes down to. Yeah,
and I think when we speak about obviously upgrades and things, I think regardless of whatever course the government takes in regards to the energy efficiency and net zero and things, clarity for landlords is good, and it really helps them plan ahead, and it allows them to budget with confidence and things. So it's good to set your properties up for the long-term future, especially when it comes to energy efficiency.
And we're getting near capital gains tax.
I know. I was trying to make sure we had time. I know you want to talk about it, but we'll go through more opportunities to expand. And as I said, obviously, highly leveraged landlords have had a tough time through 2023, and it's essential that it's estimated, that around 139,000 rental properties were sold. Now, I did look at figures about this in another show, and I'll not go too much into it, but there was 139,000 sold, but there was also a similar figure of rental properties bought. That was a UK-wide survey, so this
is exciting times for people out there that don't understand what leverage is. Leverage is your loan to value. In other words, if you buy a house for £100,000 and the bank gives you 75,000 as a mortgage towards it, your loan to value is 75%, which is the 75% of the 100,000 that you got, or the value of the property, and your investment is 25%. So when we talk about leverage, when you go more highly leveraged, that 75% could maybe be 80% or 90%, if that's entirely possible. Or it could even be to the point of an infinite return, which was a no money down deal, which was you bought the house at 50,000, you spent 70 grand refurbing it, it's now valued at, you spent 20 grand at refurbing it, it's now 70,000 you've put into it, we're buying it as well. And now you can get a mortgage. Now you can get the bank to say basically it's worth 100,000, so you can get a 75% loan to value mortgage on it. So you get 75,000 back out, and that pays for the house and it pays for the refurb as well. So you've effectively put no money down in this, and then you can make a return on it. But what you have to realise is your rent then has to deduct the mortgage at the 75% loan to value. So as you go higher in proportion to that, possibly the rent and the mortgage will get tighter and the margin will get smaller. Therefore, that's why you're highly leveraged and highly geared. That's another word people talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. And like I say, it's good to clarify on certain things that we use and words we use and things, because people watching may not be quite aware of what they actually mean.
And I would have loved to have watched a show like this. Flipping heck. I had no knowledge. I had nobody to turn to. I just had to guess and basically like a white stick, you know, in the buy-to-let market, because there was no buy-to-let market when I first started. There was no knowledge, no information, no expertise, nobody to turn to, nobody to look at and see what you were meant to do and where. You know, when I first started 30 years ago, that wasn't possible. And now it's like that wealth of knowledge. You just got to filter out the crap from the cream, I suppose, is the,
you know, and
is
a lot of people starting out now with things as well, and to learn a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this and on the Wealth Creation Show and things as well, they have to pay thousands at some training course or some, you know, to find out these things. So,
but they think they're getting better value for money going to a training course and paying thousands to do it and spending time.
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully
they're excited.
But hopefully people
that watch this, everybody just wants excitement.
Hopefully people that watch this take a lot from it, because that's what we do it for, and it is really to inform and help people. But as I talk about the figures of people selling up their rental properties, this does make a bit of a shortage in homes, and it makes it even more acute. But the exodus does provide several opportunities as well. So UK rents, maybe we're talking about UK as a whole, UK rents rose by 6.1% in 2023, while house prices decreased by 1.2%.
Overall, so, Scottish house prices went up by 2.2%.
Yes, and that's
went up by 1.7%.
Yeah, that's right. These are UK-wide stats, so it does change obviously, and Fife and Scotland are different. But the Hamptons estimate that the rents will increase 4 times faster than house prices between now and 2026. Now that's
look at the way they've done that, 4 times faster now than house prices. So if house prices are 0.1%, and then rents increase by 0.4%, that's 4 times faster. Then see how that's done? Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So be careful with stats. I mean, like I say, we're referring to these stats that we've got, and it's a UK whole. But us in Fife and up here in Scotland, things can be a lot different.
I'll increase your turnover by, X%. If I don't do it, okay, so my turnover's at 10,000, and you says you're going to increase it by 20%. So literally, you're telling me you're going to add £2,000. What are you charging me for that? Oh, what, 10,000? It's like, so I'm going to charge you. I'm going to get your turnover increased by 20%, but I'm going to charge you 10 grand for it. But my turnover's only 10 grand, so I'm only getting 2 grand out of it. So I'm making a loss of 8 grand. Then that's an absurd scenario, but it just shows you how the devil's in the detail. So don't be fooled by statistical information. Drill down, look behind it, and get the details and the facts about pounds, shillings, and pence.
Yeah, but then if we were to look at those stats, and then that would indicate that there would be a slowing in the sales market, and see more properties taking longer to sell. So if that was to happen, then we would have more properties coming up for sale, and then new and expanding landlords can strike maybe a better deal if there's more property available.
I don't think that's really on the cards at this point in time. I think we're still in a market where it's taken, on average, a couple of months to sell. If you look at the Spanish market, it takes 2 years, and they don't bother. They just wait 2 years. That's normal for them. So for 2 months for us, it's like we're impatient, because it's like, wait a minute, 2 years ago it was selling in 2 weeks. Why am I having to wait 2 months? It's like, I just chill, and just wait it out. But then that's a lot to do maybe with a stage and sitting in front of them and actually advising them this is how long it takes possibly to sell. So we're on a journey of fact finding and information gathering more than just putting on and hoping for the best. and it will happen overnight. My house will always sell.
I had that same conversation just on the rental side with the landlords the other day that I'd met, and I mean, they're familiar with letting and things, but I was explaining to them, look, we've still got a lot of high demand from tenants looking. The mid-market stuff's shifting really quickly. Their property was priced quite in the higher bracket of rental value, and I says, look, they are taking a wee bit longer, and I made them very aware of that. I said, this isn't going to happen in a couple of weeks like it did maybe a year ago. But, you know, it's going to be maybe 4 to 6 weeks by the time we do this process and get somebody in place.
Yeah,
just to make sure they have that expectation, and they're not thinking, oh, this is going to be done overnight. It's, you know, it's different at different ends of the market. So
just as an observation, I think I need to go on a holiday to the Maldives or something, because you've got a better tan than me. I look pasty white. Wait a minute, I'm needing to go somewhere exotic so I can get my tan back.
I've not been anywhere, I don't think, have I?
I know, it's just the lighting, it's all right. See, because look what happens, look. See how it changes?
Yeah.
It's like, because it's the white balance in the light. So it's this. I wore the wrong top.
If I do that, it changes.
I wore a black top, and that's the worst thing you could wear, because then the light balance goes out, and therefore you look pasty white.
Yeah. But Jim, you've been on more holidays than me this year, or than the last year. So anyway, but yeah, and expanding also buying tenanted properties is one for from landlords that may be exiting, means that people could pick these up with tenants in place, start earning income from the day you complete on the purchase. Be cautious about doing that, but I think if you've got the right information about the tenancy that's in place and the track record, and you've had a good look at the property and you've had somebody check it as well and give you a kind of third-party opinion rather than just taking the seller's feedback or whatever, you know, make sure you do your due diligence with that. But it could be a good opportunity to pick up tenanted properties as well.
I think well, the one for me right now is like I'm going to the buyer, the seller solicitor, and I'm saying, could you confirm for me that every single tenant is up to date in their rent, and every single certificate is in place and up to date as well? Because if the solicitor confirms it, he's going to have to check it, or she's going to have to check it beforehand to put their rubber stamp on that, or there's liability and there's comeback on that. So that's why you would do that. Get the solicitor to pin their colours to the mast on behalf of their client. And then they'll start make sure they jump through hoops rather than just saying, oh, here's all the crap there, just deal with it when you get it. That's probably the thing for me. More opportunities to expand. Well, it just depends if somebody wants to expand or not. I think that's what it really comes down to. Do you really want to expand? You have to take into account as well, one of the most important things you have to take into account just now is the impending legislation that's going to come in on the 1st of April, and what could happen. Now, I talk about what could happen, maybe happen, but there's only one thing that's going to happen. But this is quite a volatile situation. I will say describe it as volatile from the Scottish government, driven by Patrick Harvey or the Greens. Mm-hmm. You know, so this is a difficult situation. They've still not got any legislation in place. I knew that would happen. 2015 now they're talking about they'll get the proper legislation in place, and what they're going to do in between is a transitional tapered effect. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to come up with some sort of tapered mechanism where your rent will be tapered. And I've written in the discussion paper and the consultation paper the fact that okay, so I'm renting a 1-bedroom person in a 3-bedroom house because I want to help them because they get their kids at weekends to have a place for their kids, so they wouldn't get their kids at the weekends. So I'm renting them at that rate for a 1-bedroom in a 3-bedroom property out of my own good heart. So what you're telling me under the new taper system is when I go to re-rent that, I'm only allowed a certain amount over the 1-bedroom rate I was charging.
Yeah, it doesn't make
sense.
And
I can't go back to the 3-bedroom allowance I was charging in the first place. That means I'm not going to help anybody ever again. And that's on your head, Patrick Harvey, the Minister for Tenants. The Minister for Tenants is a joke. He's not representing tenants' rights at all.
No, to say it's the Minister for Tenants is quite it's a bit ludicrous when you look at some of the facts. It doesn't make sense.
It's more like the Minister for the Ministry of the Funny Walks, Monty Python. You know, that's more or less what he's like. He's a minister for an idiot. He's the fool. He's the government's fool, and he's only there because he gives them the power with his one vote and his sidekick as well. The Greens. That's the only reason they're there. Less than 7,000 people voted for that person, and he's a minister in charge of something. And he's coining it in. For a guy that says, oh, he's all for the people, he's earning just under 100,000 a year. and traveling the world on your money, the taxpayers, enjoying himself, it's going to take a lot for him to let go of that. And that power he's getting, it's more the power than anything. That's what he's wanting to keep a hold of. And he'll not give that up easily. Anyway, that's another story. I don't really bother about Patrick. You know, I'll call him out for what he is.
Yeah.
And I've got no grievances about him, really. It's just the fact that, you know, what you do, shout so loud, I can't hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what comes to mind when I look at somebody like that, and I listen to him. What comes out your mouth is completely different about what's happening in reality.
Yeah.
And people are struggling, tenants are struggling, and it's not because of private landlords, it's because of his legislation. And the government it's in just now, in power, they're the ones that have allowed it to happen because they've given him the power. They've abdicated the power to him and let him do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions through up with the legislation.
Definitely. Let's talk about capital gains.
Yeah, I just wanted to say finally, though, just on expanding, obviously, bear in mind that rental homes that are let out below their current market rate, they should, there could be very well some hidden extra value in these properties being sold. So, I mean, look out for that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, capital gains, Jim, this is you. You were waiting on that. So, tell us a bit about capital gains.
Well, in 2022 autumn statement, if you cast your mind back about over a year ago, the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, no other way to say that. Sorry, I'm on a banker and Hunt thing. Announced plans to reduce the capital gains tax personal allowance, and the final step is due to take effect this year. For landlords that have actually been, for me, I've been slowly transitioning the ones in our name to the limited company. But when you do that, you have to pay capital gains because it's like you're going from one owner to the next owner, even though you own that company as a separate legal entity in its own right. Therefore, you have to pay capital gains on that. So landlords that have started off in the beginning, like ourselves, like Elaine and I, have held their properties in our own name for all these years, have now built up huge amount of gains in our properties. But we want to keep them and move them onto our limited company, not actually do that. So we're getting penalised in a capital gain allowance getting taken in between. So we're having to work out strategically over the years, and we have done, how to transfer them and take account of both of our allowances at the same time. Now capital gains is getting taken away for everybody that's trying to do that now. You've got no chance.
So capital gains, they're slowly being taken away, and the allowances have been reduced. So explain to us how they've been reduced. Like what's that? They've done it obviously gradually in stages and things.
So. Well, it was the 12,300 originally, and then last year they put it down to 6,000, and then they put it down to 3,000, and literally that'll be a 75% decrease in capital gains allowances. I mean, although you can claim back the cost of buying and selling and improvements as a landlord, it's wise to think very carefully about before you're selling a rental property if the value has increased significantly. I've got ones that are sitting.
People don't take it into consideration. They think, "Oh, I'll just sell it." It's like you're not thinking that the value of this, if you've had it for 10 years or whatever, is going to increase significantly for when you bought it. So you're going to have
especially landlords that have highly geared themselves and remortgaged over the years because they've got a deferred capital gain coming. And it's going to, and some landlords at some point in time in the near future or even now can't sell because the amount to settle it, they'll have to pay the bank's money back. Let me explain. You've got a mortgage of, I don't know, 50,000, and then you've got a property, it's still worth 55,000, but you bought that property for 12,000. Therefore, you sell at 55,000 minus the 12,000, £43,000 gain. That's what you're going to be taxed on. Okay? So just say 20% over that. So you're going to get taxed 8,600 on that. So 8,600. So you're selling for 55, I said. You're going to get 8,600 taken off. So you've got 46,400. All right. But you've got to pay back 50,000 a mortgage. And you've got to pay your cost of selling. and your solicitor and everything else that goes with it. And if your mortgage is on a redemption, if it's in a fixed period, you're going to have to pay that as well. So you're gonna by selling, you're actually going to lose about £5,000 or £6,000 by selling your property, even though it's more than what you bought it for, because of the capital gains and having to pay back the bank, because you'll still have to pay back the 50,000, even though you've got 46,400.
Yeah,
that you're getting at the end of it. And that's what the problem is about remortgaging all the time, especially if you've got any thought of exiting later on, is a no-no. This is why when I came to remortgage some of mine recently, Kessler, Freedom Financial, was saying to me, "So do you want to release any equity?" And I went, no. I'm not releasing any equity unless I really need to, unless it serves a purpose to do something else, to reinvest again. I'm not doing anything like that at all. So I just kept the mortgage at 27 grand. I've got no desire, because I've got a couple like that. The mortgage is 50 grand. That's a classic example of what I just showed you. So by selling, it's no benefit me at all. I'm actually having to pay back £6,000. I've only got about 3 like that. And they're 5-year fixed rate deals, so I've got no desire to sell, because the margin that I'm getting now, the money every single month I'm making out of them now is quite a lot in comparison. I'll give you an example of one of them. So it would cost me £6,000 to sell, and I'm not going to show you on the screen or anything, but I'll tell you what I'm getting out of from the mortgage getting done. So therefore, one of the ones that I talked about like that, primarily, is I bought for 16,000. It's probably worth about 65,000 today. Maybe we'll say 55,000. But more importantly, I'm now getting £6,000 in rent a year, and the mortgage is only 2,500. Therefore, I'm clearing £4,000 for overheads every single year. On that property. So why would I sell that? Even though it's a negative equity, even though I've got money to pay back, if I ever sell it, why on earth would I sell it if it's making that money for me? £4,000 before overheads. And that is the dilemma, and that's why I talk about holding property for the long term, for more or less forever, till I pop my clogs. And then the kids will hold that property as well. The kids will hold that property as well. It'll go into trust, and they'll look after it, and they'll have it for them as well. Why would you have any intention to sell if you've got an asset that's producing income, even though it's a negative equity in terms of when you not negative equity, but in terms of capital gain deferred, and you remortgaged it so much. But remember, with the remortgage and I remortgaged it so much and I got all that money out, I then reinvested it in more property. So even though that's making 4,000 before the overheads, the other ones that I bought with the 50,000 that I reinvested to buy more property is making more money as well. So it's not just 4,000 a year I'm making with that money.
They're making money on the money.
It's another money. It's a money I'm making elsewhere. So I think I first started out with just 14,000 in mortgage I got from the Bank of Scotland, and I remortgaged it up to the 50. And I got all that money back out, so I invested it. So I probably bought another 2-3 properties like that. So essentially, before the overheads are cleared, I'm probably making on that 50,000 that I originally borrowed, probably around about 20,000 a year.
That's a good stuff. And that's why people, when you tell them,
if you know what you're doing in buy to let, and you understand the numbers and you understand the dynamics of how it works, how so important it is to have the right mentors and listen to the right people. Because the young brigade that have just arrived and sell courses, they have no idea what's going on or what they're meant to be doing. They're selling the old paradigm that I used to use when I first started 30 years ago. And people are still buying into that because it's new to them. But there's a whole different ball game going on a completely different level in buy to let now.
And people, I mean, you speak to certain people and they're like, how could you be doing that? How could your return be at that? But
so about 20 grand, I'll just calculate that actually. It's a 40% return, isn't it? It's like, what? That's why when I go on and say I'm pretty upset if it's no 25% or more, folk are going, you're never getting 25. I go, well, I've not got anything to prove. It's like, didn't believe me then? So what? I'm not needing to tell you how it's done or what to do. It's no skin off my nose, just don't believe me. But some people now and again, very few, 5% group, do actually go, what are you doing, Jim?
How do you do that?
Maybe we should invest in Fife properties and buying houses and giving them 5 properties to rent for us, because then they'll be able to advise us on what we should be doing, how we should be doing it. Absolutely. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Win-win for both parties.
So in terms of capital gains tax, for properties sold by landlords, it is split into two bands. So explain the two bands to us, Jim.
It's a simple process, two bandings. If you're a high rate payer, you're paying 28% right across the board on your capital gains. If you're a low rate payer in tax, then you're paying 18% basic rate. I got a funny feeling that's going to change as well. I've got a funny feeling they're going to actually end up taking capital gains of it. Because remember, the government can't, we're sitting at something like 90% loan to value as a country of our GDP. It's something ridiculous. America's worse. America's way beyond that. America's like Northern Rock. It's sitting at something like 125% of what it actually takes. That's any business, that's not a comfortable situation to be in.
That's a dodgy position to be in.
Yeah, they've got to work out how they can get in more money in order to pay this debt down. So in order to do that, just like any business, they're going, where will we get our money? Well, we'll get it from people with tax. So how we're going to be more creative with our tax without actually upsetting people who vote for us?
Yeah,
we'll go for the landlords. There's the minority group, but they have all the money. Or they supposedly have all the money. A lot don't. But that's what they do. So I think capital gains tax will eventually be dissolved, and they'll take your capital gains as normal personal income tax.
Right, okay.
I think that's what will happen eventually. And I also predict that there'll be some shape or form, if they can get away with it, anybody, it's a limited company and you have no employees, because that happens, or you have one employee or less, in other words, self-employed people, to avoid the higher rates for tax, they're going to end up working out some sort of way to actually bring you into income tax. If you're a shareholder or a director as a limited company with one or less employee. And I tell you what, that'll hit a lot of people. But that's what they have to do it. They have to do it. They've got increasing costs. They've not solved the situation about all these costs that are continuing to increase, with people getting older and having to provide all these services and all these costs going up and salaries, because we've got to pay for all these MPs.
Yeah.
Well, I had a thought. I'm not pro and I'm not against, but I had a thought the other day about when I thought about Patrick Harvey's salary, and then I thought about all the MSPs sitting in Parliament, and I think their minimum salary is 75,000.
Yeah.
And you think about all these MSPs, and I think there's 300 of them. That is literally 22.5 million a year in salaries, and that's not just the expenses to run and the civil servants that go along with it.
Yeah.
And these are all this has been created out of the fact that we've now got a Scottish Parliament and Scottish MSPs. And my question, and I've never even, I only just thought about it the other day, is that really giving us value for money anymore?
No, I know.
Or is it just another tier of bureaucracy? It's actually costing us a fortune. And this is what we're going to have to come to the realization. You know, if we're going to pay for this, somebody's got to pay for it, and it's us, whether we like it or not.
The taxpayer has to pay for it.
This is why capital gains tax is going to have to change fundamentally. This is why they're going to have to change it. But that'll take a lot of years, because there's a lot of implications and complications in the whole taxation system in order to do that, because they've got huge amounts of, legislation that they've got to go way back and check, like 1700s legislation on capital gains and all the chattels and all the different things like paintings, because capital gains, paintings, crypto could maybe come under capital gains, but nobody knows who owns the crypto. But I'm sure if you get the crypto, when you think about it in your bank and your lifestyle completely changes, the taxman's going to go, wait a minute, how have you got a lifestyle which exceeds your salary? Where's that come from? I want to see your bank records. That's when they're going to catch up with you.
That's good, yeah.
So it's going to have to come somewhere as more and more people live longer, and we have to provide more facilities and more stuff. This is why automation is so important. This thing about automation's going to do away with everybody else's jobs is a complete lie. It's not at all. Look at what computers are going to do away with everybody's job. Everybody's still got a job because they're just working in a different industry. So AI isn't going to replace anybody, really. It's just going to displace your job, and you're going to work in the AI industry from then on. That's all. You're just going to work somewhere else. What happened to the paperless office?
I know. Things have just
never
shifted.
happened.
Yeah, I know.
It's like we just put everything on. We put everything on hard disk, and we put photographs, everything, and photocopies, everything, and we could do with paperless, but then we need somebody to work in that industry to manage all that, and that's the same people that were in the paper industry.
So things just shift across, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the same. It's the same jobs, but in a different area. And so we'll not streamline any jobs, really. We'll just take one jobs from one sector and move them into the AI sector, and more people will get educated in that and retrain for that area. That's all that's going to happen. We're not going to get rid of any jobs at all. So don't kid yourself and think you're going to be sitting on beaches while AI is doing it all for you. Oh, this is great. And you've got your guaranteed salary from Elon Musk of £30,000 a year, and you're just sunning it up. See the sun coming in? Oh, it's great. It's glorious. I've still not got a tan, by the way.
I've still not got your tan, so yeah, I was just going to say that.
I should get a sun lamp and just get a tan at the same time when I'm doing it. There's a thought, eh? How habit stack and be more efficient in what you're doing. Get a tan at the same time as you're doing the live broadcast.
But yeah, I think with capital gains, Jim, it's true what you say. Given the changes in the personal allowance and things, using the equity in your property to fund more rental home purchases and increase your income might feel like a better move than paying a large chunk of tax. So
yeah, definitely, I think so. Yeah.
I think to round it up today, I mean, the question is: are you reviewing your buy-to-lets for 2024? The question, the answer should probably be yes. So if it is, obviously, and really you should be thinking about a lot of what we spoke about today. If you want to touch base, my email address is in the blog attached to this, and my mobile number, actually. So feel free to touch base with me if there's anything you want to ask. If it's increasing your income, planning for the future energy legislations, or just knowing which house in which area could be the most profitable for you to add to your portfolio, I'd be happy to help have that chat and point you in the right direction of what you need to be doing or the person you need to be speaking to.
Oh, your details are on this post anyway, so something.
Yeah, that's what I say. My mobile,
above or below, they'll get your details off there and touch base with you. Often they come to me direct, and then I just refer them to you because you're the person that knows what you're doing. You understand exactly what's currently in the market right now. The rental values are right now as well.
Although obviously you have a level of expertise in lettings and things, Jim, a lot of people get the misconception that you run the lettings stuff, and you don't. It's me. So
knowledge and expertise. Why do you think? Just to brief everybody out there, why do you think we do so many shows together? Because we're actually learning and discussing as we go. And so you're actually getting an insight into this as well at the same time. And if you're watching all these shows and learning, you're learning at the same rate as each of us and reinforcing what we know and reinforcing what you should know as well. So ultimately, this is like a university lecture.
It's quite good. I see what you say about the reinforcing thing, Jim. I think that's really good because, I mean, it's good to go over these things. And although we know it and we talk about it, I think, but to talk about it on the show and kind of reinforce it for ourselves and help people learn, and it's really good to do that. And we learn quite a lot on these shows and our wealth creation show and things from each other and for people that join in as well. So I would always say keep it interactive, guys. Jump into the comments and things if you feel like you want to ask a question. We will always go through each one, whether it's live or whether we go back to you afterwards.
Brilliant. And on that note,
we'll finish up
weekends
there.
Ahead. Everybody enjoy themselves. Have a fantastic time. And bye for now.
See you later, Jim.